On this episode of the Who Is This podcast, we talk with the Graham County Chamber of Commerce Executive Director Vance Bryce. Vance tells us about his journey that led him to working on Capitol Hill and the eye-opening experience that was for him. Eventually, he made his way back to the Gila Valley with a bag full of valuable experience gained in DC. Vance loves working for the Chamber, and our community of local businesses is extremely fortunate to have someone like him with his experience in their corner. All right, well, welcome, Vance. Thanks. We're excited to have you, man.
Thanks for having me.
This is Vance Bryce from Thatcher AZ.
Central. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
We both did it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I already messed up. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It kind of shows a good flavor of Valley stuff.
Yeah, Central. It is. It has its own post office.
Yeah.
It's on zip code.
Its own zip code.
It's on mascot.
It's what?
Tell us about the Central mascot.
I didn't know
Central Tigers.
I didn't know Central had a
no
mascot.
Orange and blue.
Was there a school in
There used to
Central?
be a school
Oh.
in the Central. There's a park in Central. Central Park. Not as famous as the other Central Park, obviously. Right next to the post office.
Yeah,
There's
I've
a
been there
school
many
there.
times. I didn't know there was a school there.
Yeah, there's a school where the basketball court is.
Okay.
And my grandma and grandpa met in first grade in
No way.
that school.
And what was their mascot?
Tigers.
Tigers.
But it was only elementary. They all went to Thatcher after that.
So it's kind of like Solomon and Safford now.
Right.
Okay.
And they're the Tigers too. In Solomon.
We gotta be more creative with
Lobos.
our mascots.
Yeah.
Aren't they the Lobos?
Are they the Lobos? They probably are the Lobos.
Lobos.
I think I just saw a picture and I was like, they're Tigers too. It was a poorly drawn logo, whoever did it.
Wait, I could be wrong about that. My dad was a Solomon whatever, and I should know this.
They're,
I have no
they're green
idea.
and gold, I think. Green and gold?
Green and yeah.
Anyway.
I have no idea.
I'll fact check it.
We had a ribbon cutting for the lunch area for Mount Graham High School, and they are the Wolverines, and they're green. And I brought a blue ribbon for the ribbon cutting because it was Safford, and AJ, the superintendent, was there from Safford, and he's in blue.
Yeah.
So I didn't know they were green. Why would you have it? Well, I'm not criticizing anyone, but you have a green school in Safford School District.
Yeah, that does seem a little conflict of interest there.
Yeah. So the
The-
president
even
of
the
the school
rivalry,
board
yeah.
was there. Mike DeLeo. You guys gotta know Mike.
Yeah.
He'd be great on here, by the
Mhm.
way. And he was like, well, he was razzing him because all the furniture for the lunch tables and everything are green. Yeah. I learned that today. You learn something new every day in this valley.
Yeah, you
I
do.
have always been of the opinion that a mascot ought to represent the area somehow. So like, I always get kind of annoyed when like the mascot is some random. I don't know. It's just a me thing.
Rough Riders is like,
Makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't see many Eagles
The
around.
Gila Monsters,
Makes sense.
makes sense.
best mascot. Yeah.
That's a good mascot.
Yeah.
That is
That's a really good mascot.
It's unique.
Yeah,
We have them here.
and it's
No one else is gonna have that.
Yeah.
I don't see many Eagles.
Scottsdale's the artichokes.
Thatcher.
I know I'm a Thatcher Eagle, and I don't know.
I mean, I like it, but
Yeah, I like
get
it,
it.
yeah.
It doesn't exactly.
There was a bald eagle at Riggs Lake last summer. So
Really?
There we go. Okay.
Okay, good.
So,
We're
it makes
good.
sense.
Yeah, artichokes.
they're just
that's a good
rare
one.
and elite
Yeah.
and higher above everyone else
Yeah.
when you're an eagle.
Well,
Right.
I can say that in this room.
yeah, and as far as mascots go, anything. I mean, my family, my in-laws are all from Duncan, and the pumpkin rollers. That's pretty bad. Like, who okayed that?
Still Scottsdale artichokes, then pumpkin. Rollers.
Yeah,
But the
artichokes
artichokes
is pretty
is
bad.
like what?
Yeah.
Pink and black. Scottsdale. So bizarre.
Anyways,
Well, Vance.
yeah, tell us.
Excited to have you here.
We talk
I've
about
known you
that.
my entire life.
I know.
I've specifically since preschool, Mrs. Bryce
Mm-hmm.
at her house.
Mm-hmm.
Mom, Mrs.
Oh,
Bryce.
Mrs. Wendy Bryce.
This is Wendy Bryce.
I'm probably relation, but
Yeah. Don't ask me how, because I'm bad at that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of Bryces.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited for everybody to get to know you. I think you're a very interesting guy, and I think you have a story, and I want to dig into that.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
I know. I see the same thing. I'm like, I'm excited to have a conversation with Davis, even if it's being recorded.
Yeah.
We get to talk, but not as often as I'd like.
Right.
We went to our homecoming assembly. Homecoming assembly at Thatcher High School is like the coolest thing ever.
Uh-huh.
We just like we're like we're going, and we went last year just for fun because we were in a student body presidency together. Yeah. And just remembering those days, and if you get the chance, go to a Thatcher High School homecoming assembly.
It's unique to Thatcher. I don't think a lot of schools do something
No, it's
quite
huge.
as spectacular.
Yeah. It is
It's a
pretty
whole
big
play,
production.
whole production. There's a script, there's sound.
What was your guys' homecoming?
Star Wars.
That's pretty good.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What was yours? We were gone by then.
This is really bad, but I can't think.
Don't tell Alex.
Seriously. Well, no, and I was part of student council.
Oh,
I was the senior class representative and the athletic club president.
Yeah.
But I didn't do my elective. I didn't take the leadership class.
Yeah.
So, what was ours? I mean, and the reason I think I'm having a hard time thinking about it is because I've gone to other ones too. You know what I mean? It's funny because I could tell you 2 years prior, like Cedric Johnson's, because it was so good.
Yeah.
They did
007.
007 and
had like Austin
and
Powers
had Austin
stuff,
Powers.
Oh, yeah.
And Cedric was Austin Powers. That's why, because he did such a good job with
Yeah.
it. I think ours might have been Batman, because that's when like The Dark Knight came out.
Oh yeah.
2008.
I could be so wrong, and I cannot. I didn't participate in I didn't have a role in the production, so
Still, my
I'm
favorite
trying to
thing
think. I thought I knew, but-
to this day is Sam Polly's costume.
Yes.
What was it?
We didn't tell anyone what we were
Tight
gonna do.
gold booty shorts and gold body paint. He was C-3PO.
And a mask. And
And a
a
mask, yeah.
C-3PO mask. We didn't ask anyone because we knew they wouldn't allow it.
Uh-huh.
So we're like, he's just gonna come out like
He's gonna
this.
show up.
Because
That's hilarious.
you asked for forgiveness on some things,
Yeah.
and we were like, we're just not gonna get him a costume. He's just gonna not wear anything. We're gonna paint
That's
him.
gonna drive me crazy now that I can't think of what mine was. But oh well.
We'll make a phone call after or something.
Yeah, I'm sure we could figure it out. But, anyways, so Vance, tell us about yourself.
Oof.
Start from the beginning.
You're from a big family.
Vance, being born of godly parents. No, I'm just kidding. I'm from Central. I'm the youngest of 7.
Okay.
Grew up in Central. Went to Thatcher High School. Went to Brigham Young University. Started a mission in Ukraine.
Pause.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
It was different. It's a different culture for sure. It was weird. We only had 50 missionaries in our mission, a small mission, as far as mission goes. We were all very positive people. Like a lot of redheads, which is really random.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like 50% of the mission was redheads. Like very outgoing, very positive.
As far as the elders?
The
in
elders,
mission?
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, interesting.
Which is weird. Like
Tyler Clifford went to the Ukraine, and I think he was semi-redhead.
reddish
Yeah,
hair.
he was reddish. Yeah.
I don't know, no rhyme or reason, but we're all very positive, which was good for Ukraine. Ukraine's a place that has been run over in every war since forever, because their country is all plains. They have a few rivers. They get invaded anytime someone feels like invading someone, which obviously they're in the situation
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
And there was bullet holes in this bank building in the main square from the Crimean War in the 10s, World War I, World War II, and I'm sure that there's some bullet holes now, or the building doesn't exist because that city got hit really hard this last year. But just because of their geography, they're not in a great spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so their personalities come from that. Is they don't trust people very easily. I don't know, it's just like a whole nation of people that have had trauma. And they being the church, sent out these really positive, naive very naive. We were all like very, I don't even know how to describe it. Like a bunch of retrievers, golden retrievers, to a country of black cats.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I'll use it. And even our mission, like scripture, was for behold, I send you as lambs before wolves.
Oh, wow.
That was the scripture. And so they're really nice. Once you get to know someone there, like anywhere else in the world, I do believe this about humans, they were the best. Like anyone will tell you wherever they serve in the world, the people that they meet there are kind and good people.
Yeah.
And once you get to know anyone, they're like that,
Yeah.
right? But I think there's a lot of, there was churches that came in right after the wall fell that like finagled people's property or money or like stole stuff from them, so there was a lot of trust issues
They
there.
already had
Or like we would
walls
knock on
built up,
doors and they would open the door and grab their kids and be like, "Don't take our kids, please." And we'd be like,
wow.
"What happened here that you are doing
That's
that?" Like,
crazy.
weird stuff.
Wow.
Um,
Tyler Clifford, I lived with him after our missions. When we were going to ASU, we were roommates, and he served in the Ukraine, and I served in Mexico. And two completely different experiences as far as
hospitality
mission
is
goes.
totally different. Yeah.
So it's very interesting. Yeah, that's crazy. Don't take our kids.
Yeah.
So you came back from your mission.
I served like 6 months.
Yeah.
I came out as gay. First person I ever told was my mission president. Like, people knew. I had like a Lady Gaga song for my campaign when I was a student body president. So some people knew.
Yeah.
I figured it out even before I did. But first came out to my mission president and talked to him about a lot of stuff. Like, I'm a childhood sexual abuse survivor. Talked to him about that. And he was like, "You should go home and like talk to therapists, like talk to family." And it was like the best. At the time I was like, "Keep me out of here," because you don't ever want to go home. But it was the best decision. Like, it was needed to happen, definitely. And went and I'm a huge fan of therapy for anyone who's thinking, is it worth it? Yeah, just go. Make an appointment. It's like a dentist for your brain.
Was your mission president helpful? Because I mean, I can't, being in that, given church culture and all, I mean, I'm sure that was a extremely hard and scary conversation to bring up. But like, did he make it?
He wasn't unhelpful, but like, I'm like worried he's gonna see this, but he probably won't. So we had a reunion like maybe 5 years later, and he like hugged all the elders. He was going down the line, and then he didn't hug me, and I was like,
"Oh, bro."
Interesting. Yeah.
I was like, "Dude, I'm not into you." But yeah, he definitely had his like. I think that generation has their like, biases towards it, but he wasn't unhelpful either. He wasn't. It was weird. Like we talked, and then like I didn't get to talk to anyone after that. Like I was just like in this. Like until I went home, I didn't really have a conversation with anyone. It was really weird, but.
But
it was good too because I was like bawling the whole time.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have conversations because like they wouldn't let you, or like.
It just didn't. Like.
Just didn't. Okay.
I think I was probably quiet.
Yeah.
And just sad.
Yeah. Well, I served in Guadalajara, and I only served for 6 months too. And that alone, coming back to a town like Thatcher, you know, coming home
so
early from your mission.
It's different.
Yeah, people unfortunately can be very judgmental, and they assume things. They want to. You know,
they want to figure it out.
They think they have it figured out. That I know, and they have no idea. You know, so it's just one of those things that, not an easy thing to do, and so I can relate with you a little bit on that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was here for like 2 weeks, then I went back to Provo, Utah, and being 20 in Provo at that time, because it used to be, you'd go out at 19, come back at 21, and like those were the ages. Like if anyone was outside of that, it was a little weird.
Yeah.
Now there's like 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20, 21, 22. It's not as like in stone when you go.
Right.
But at the time it was like, you're 20, why? Why are you here?
Yeah.
And so that was like, when I turned 21, I was like, sweet, I don't have to say 20 anymore.
Yeah. So, because you went to BYU Provo, what did you get your degree in?
American literature.
Okay.
American studies, focus on literature. It was like an accidental major because I started as international relations, and then they were like, we want you to do all this economics, like it's like trigonometry for economics, like math stuff that I was not into at all. I was more into like the politics of it, like the relationships and the.
Not you.
Yeah,
That's so
not me.
Yeah.
And they were like, that's not us. Try the political science department. Political science department at BYU is the same way. So it just depends on where you go to school. At BYU, it's very math. Let's take surveys. Let's find out what's statistically significant. And I learned some of those words, and I was like, I'm gonna be more of an English major. And then so I like drifted around a long time until I figured out like. American studies had all those things like politics, reading, writing, how to be persuasive, speaking, that kind of thing. So it's super fun. But now that I've been through that and went to too many years of school and spent too much money, I would tell any kid going into school, like, it doesn't really matter what your degree's in, especially for humanities. Like, you're gonna learn how to read, write, make an argument. And you can do that in history, you can do it in English, you can do it in art history, you can do it in another language. Any of those humanities degrees, it's a really awesome skill set. And we need it. I love the humanities, but don't get caught up on American history or European history. What do I do? It doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't matter at all. It's just they just teach you to learn, read, write, and speak, and you're good to go.
That's been kind of a common theme amongst the people that we've had is like, college is good.
Yeah.
It's good to have a degree. May or may not be necessary depending on what you do.
Depending on what you do,
you
for sure.
definitely get life experience, and you're probably gonna learn something. And just the fact that you have that degree is gonna look really good on a resume for sure.
For me, it was all about the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It still is all about the people.
Right.
And I still talk to all those people.
This is kind of in relation to that, and I don't know why I just thought of this, but I don't know, it's because I was just talking to someone about this. But so as a kid, you grow up thinking, I've got to get a degree, right? That's just what you're taught, you know, high school, college, which is good. Another thing that as a kid, that you think is, I'm trying to be careful with how I want to say this, but do you remember thinking how important it was to get your Eagle Scout? Like that was, as a kid, like that was like you gotta get your Eagle Scout, which I'm not saying is not a good thing to get, but like they would tell you it looks so good on your resume. I've never once had like been in an interview where I felt like saying I was an Eagle Scout was gonna benefit me a whole lot. And I don't know if you guys were Eagle Scouts or not, but like I didn't even get my life in scouting, and I wasn't super into it. But anyways, that's another one of those things that growing up in the culture that you're involved in, you realize
and then overnight it changed.
Yeah, you realize later on you're like, probably wasn't as big of a deal as I thought, you know.
Yeah.
But
my boss in DC, so I worked on Capitol Hill for a couple of years.
yeah, I want to hear about that.
He would introduce me, and almost, I don't know if he was making fun of me, because like I said, I'm like golden retriever energy, don't really know sarcasm when I hear it, don't really, like I'll be like, huh, what? So I think he was making fun of me now, that like looking back at it, he would be like, this is my scheduler and my office manager, and like, he's an Eagle Scout, he doesn't drink. And I'd be like, why am I always introduced as an Eagle Scout that doesn't drink? But it was like this weird, like, other members of Congress would be like, what? Like a staff member on Capitol Hill that doesn't drink? What do you do then? I'm like, what's your drug? They're like, how do you figure this out?
I feel like that's sometimes kind of how we feel going to
Conferences,
mortgage conferences. There's a big culture around drinking in
Yeah.
the mortgage industry. That
And I can understand why too. Like
totally.
sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I did drink, because it'd be nice to go home and not have to worry about it. You know, to kind of space out for a little while, and I get it. Yeah.
We teach a leadership class at the chamber, and I want to do like a section. There's a lot of people who don't drink in the Gila Valley, on like drinks you can get that are non-alcoholic, that you can still go and talk to people and like feel more comfortable. Because I didn't go to a bar until I lived in DC, because I was in Provo and I was here. And it's a huge part of the Capitol Hill culture. Like, you get jobs because you went to a happy hour.
totally.
Oh,
the same.
You
thing
get a
mortgage
raise
industry.
because you
The meetings after the meetings is where
Right.
a lot of the
you get
decisions are made.
bills, you get people to sign on to bills, or you get stuff for your boss, like intel for your boss. A lot of gossip happens. People get drunk.
Yeah.
They talk about stuff, and the more gossip you have on Capitol Hill, the more higher cachet you have.
Mhm.
So it's a huge part of the culture, and so I had to learn that really fast,
Yeah.
like how to be comfortable.
Yeah. Same thing with a lot with our jobs is going out to eat or going out to get drinks is what a lot of real estate agents or referral partners want to do. So, you always have I always have to have that conversation. I honestly just don't dwell on it. I say, I don't drink.
Right.
And that's just a decision that I've made.
Yeah.
And usually people are like, oh, okay, but anywhere outside of this valley it's like you've never drank before. You don't drink. What do you mean?
And you can make it really weird, or you can just go with the flow. And it's funny because here, like I came out as gay. In BC, you come out as a Latter-day Saint or as a non-drinker. Like it's a similar like. Oh, it's weird. Similar thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's funny to like either way you're discussing something that people want to talk about after that.
Right. Yeah. Anything that's different, people want more information.
Right. Like tell me more about that.
Yeah.
I do want to go through like your experience in DC. Like tell us about what you did and who you worked with, who you rubbed shoulders with.
Well, and how you even got involved with that.
Yeah. So I got into law school in DC, and I did part-time night law school, and like halfway through the semester, I was like, "This is not for me." I kind of learned. So I had an internship on Capitol Hill. So back up a few steps. Got into law school, moved to DC, applied for an internship. The guy that was hiring, so the guy in the office for Mike Thompson, who I worked for, he'd gone to school in Salt Lake City, and so he saw my BYU on my resume, and he was like, "Cool, Utah guy," or whatever. Like I went.
Mike Thompson,
he was
congressman from, or is he
So he was a member of Congress from California. So he still is.
Okay.
He still works out there.
How did you know that? I'm just impressed.
We've talked before.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'm so bad at politics. That's all I'm saying is I don't. Anyways, go ahead.
So
I think he's told me that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Gotcha. I was like, God, man, you really know your politicians.
So his staff assistant's the one that hired me. So interns aren't hired by the member of Congress. They don't even hardly know they're interns. So the guy that hired me had gone to school in Salt Lake and was gay. And so there was like this two connections, like went to school in Utah and you're gay. Because I felt like I was on, what do they call it back in the day at BYU? Understanding Same-Gender Attraction, USGA Club. They have a way better name for it now.
Yeah.
But back then we called it Same-Gender Attraction. Do you remember those days? Anyway.
I don't know.
Well, I do. Anyway. You're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway. I was part of that club, and I was like, well, I'm a Democrat, like that's gonna look good on a resume, and it did. So started an internship there and realized really quickly that like lawyers on Capitol Hill are in an office and you're like their boss. You're like, hey, I need an opinion on this. You shoot them an email. They do some work and they get proof, and then they come back to you with an argument. And I was like, I don't want to be in a room doing research in the Library of Congress and getting back to the people. I want to be in the room that's asking for that information.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't really need a law degree. It'll look good on a resume. And then I saw how much debt it was going to be. And then I got offered a full-time job. And they're like, you can't take night classes if you're going to take this job because you don't have hours. You're going to have to like work 15 hours a day, driving the congressman around, managing his schedule, reading his emails, all that stuff. And I was like, okay. I dropped out. It was like a decision I made in class. I was like, I'm just not going to do this anymore. And I didn't, like, there was a break in class, like bathroom break, and I just packed up and left and didn't come back.
Wow.
I called my dad and I was like, Dad, I'm quitting law school. And he was like, great. It was like the worst thing I ever did. I hated being a lawyer. So it wasn't like a bad, he wasn't disappointed or anything. And I worked there for 2 years. And what happened for me to move back was my chief of staff excused herself from a meeting, and she was like, or it was my deputy chief of staff, I think. And she was like, I'm just gonna call my nephew for his birthday, I'll be back in 3 minutes. And she left. And it was my nephew's birthday around the corner too. And I was like, am I gonna be doing this? Like, she's the top of the ladder. She's as far as you can go on Capitol Hill. And she's asking to be excused for 3 minutes to talk to a family member. And that kind of quality of life was just like it hit me all at once because my nephews are getting older and getting into sports in high school and having events that I'm missing. And I was like, and nieces too. But I was specifically thinking about one nephew because of how she said it. But I called my brother and I was like, I need to get home. And my whole family had missed me. My family's pretty tight. And I was off in DC. Everyone else is either here, Utah, or California. And it was like Operation Move Vance home. Like they flew out, helped me move, got me out of there. It was like a 2-week thing.
Yeah.
I made the decision, gave him my 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks my brothers were there to take me home. Like it was awesome. Super fast.
Yeah.
Which was super fun to come home and yeah, loved working there.
I couldn't have that type of. I couldn't do that either. Like you have to ask permission for 3 minutes. Like I don't want to be. I don't want to be that busy.
No.
You know.
And the great thing about Gila Valley, living here, is like every employer from like the most serious fields here, if your kid or a nephew or any family member has a game or a recital, or they're like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Doesn't your nephew have a game? Because you told us and we remember that, and you need to be there or you're not a good employee.
Yeah.
The good employees go to their kids' games. And that culture is so much better than East Coast culture.
Yeah.
Which is just a rat race. You're never going to get anywhere with that.
Yeah.
You're just going to resent all that time you spent.
Right.
Priorities here are right.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Every employer that I've had here it's always been like, yeah, we'll make it work. It's good.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, good point. So you moved back from Washington D.C. What, besides like not wanting to be there, what brought you back here?
My brother Brian bought 15 acres behind my parents, and he was doing this hobby farm thing, which I thought was really cool. And he was coding, and he was freelance, and he needed like a scheduler of some kind. And I was telling him how we did things at work. Like my boss was scheduled out every 15 minutes of his day, like just super productive. Which Brian, my brother Brian, is a productivity. Always thinking of new ways, like the Pomodoro method, or waking up super. I think at one point he was waking up at 3, getting all his work done before his kids woke up, and then hung out with his kids all day, and then went to bed early with them. Like totally supercharges his time and like thinks about those kind of things. And so we're always talking on the phone, and he's like, "Come be my scheduler." I think mostly he wanted me to come home. Like he didn't really want to hire me.
Yeah.
Like in hindsight, he was just like, "Here's how you can come home.
Yeah.
I'll hire you." And so I worked for him for maybe, I came home in like September. I was done working for him by November. Like we didn't, our personalities were like, we loved talking to each other, but working together, it was like different. Like I wanted to do it the DC way. He wanted to do it. He like is so scientific and reiterating every day. And I'm like, let's set something for 3 months and do it the same way. And he was like, he improves he changes things around. I don't even know how to describe him. He and his wife are the same way. They're just like always changing how they do stuff and making things better. They're so cool. Not my style. I'm a little more organized than that. Not organized isn't the right. Traditionally organized, I guess, is the phrase I want to use. So, started looking for jobs. I applied and interviewed at the county for a couple jobs. Applied for the position I have now at the chamber, and someone else got it, and then she was done in like a month, and so they called me back and they were like, "Hey, can you like do 2 weeks?" Or no, it was longer than that. It was a lot longer. It was a couple months with her while she transitions out, and she'll train you up, and you'll take it, kind of deal. So so now I'm at the chamber.
Who was it before her?
Before her, Micah Windsor.
Okay, yeah.
And before me, it was Micah Windsor, and before her, it was Patrick O'Donnell.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
and that's where you're at now.
Yeah, at the chamber.
So tell us. So what exactly is your role at the chamber?
So I'm the executive director. So it's a nonprofit. It's a 501c6, which means we are a nonprofit, but we can lobby. We can go and like make arguments to legislators in Phoenix or on Capitol Hill and say, "Hey, we want changes." Which doesn't work just little old Grand County. So we group with all of the chambers in Southern Arizona and kind of do that kind of work through them. But traditionally, our chamber has been really heavy into tourism locally, and then our leadership program, and then not done much advocacy. Because of my background, we do a lot more advocacy than we've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only for like really pro-business, very common sense, at least in our point of view at the chamber,
Mm-hmm.
very common sense things for business owners. We don't really get into abortion or any of like the flashpoint stuff.
Right.
That's like the culture war stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about what in government is getting in the way of people doing good business.
Okay.
What are, can you give us an example? Like, what is a roadblock that businesses here face that you think could be, if you want to go into that, you don't have
So
to.
you've probably heard about the tamale bill.
No.
Not at all. Okay.
No.
So last legislature, there was a bill that came up that was like, let's, you know, those people that sell tamales.
Okay, maybe I have heard of this.
Let's
yeah,
let's make that legal, because right now it's illegal. Let's find a
Someone
way.
come up in Walmart parking lot and they open their jacket and show you
Yeah.
tamales. Yeah.
Like, personal point of view, like if someone's selling anything to you in the Walmart parking lot, that's on you if you get food poisoning.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's
100%.
That's kind of how I feel about that.
Yeah.
But there are protections in place, I guess, for people. So even the least among us who don't know that a Walmart parking lot might not be the healthiest thing. But then also, some of the best tamales I've ever had
Yeah.
come from the bed of a truck, not from
Exactly.
right. So that they're trying to figure out how to make it safe for people to buy tamales, which took like a lot of work, because it's like, if you do the traditional, like how food safety works, like they have to have 40 degrees this, that, the other. So I guess now you can make tamales in your house and sell it, but it can't, I think they have to sell it from their house and not in an igloo that they, do you remember the tamale lady in Provo? Did you ever get tamales from her?
No.
She had a rolling igloo that she'd roll up to people's houses and sell out of,
So
which they tasted like Utah tamales.
Yeah.
I want to.
What a shame.
Yeah.
I want to know. I'd be curious to hear their. You know, is that something that the people selling the tamales wanted, or did that? I mean, because part of what they're doing is they just want some quick cash,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
is the government getting involved, making it legal? Is that making it more
I
difficult
think-
for them?
I wonder, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think there is a set amount of people that do want to run a business out of their house
Mhm.
that's going to work really well for.
Yeah.
I think you're always going to have people that don't have a social security number that are making tamales
Yeah.
and that are amazing.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be, it's not black market,
And I guess
but it's like,
I guess
they're not
those-
paying their taxes
right. And I guess those people
on
still
those
do
things.
things.
They don't have a business
Yeah.
license. They're not organized. We have a lot of that going on in the Gila Valley,
yeah.
whether you have a social security number or not, though.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I'm willing to bet the person that we buy tamales from is not paying taxes on their sale.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm okay with it. I don't have any moral issues against that.
Yeah.
one way we explain the chamber to people locally is like a sports metaphor, is that we're like the booster club.
Uh-huh.
You pay a booster club membership, and we're cheering on businesses to do the very best they can do.
Yeah.
So we're not the refs. That's the city of Safford, that's Graham County, that's the state of Arizona, that's the federal government,
Yeah.
that's the police officers. Those are the refs. And if they catch you doing something, they're gonna, whether it's not code, whether it's not this, that, the other. We encourage, we obviously at Booster Club is gonna always say, hey, you shouldn't play dirty on the football field.
Mhm.
We wanna be proud of you. But we're also not gonna tell on people, we're not gonna,
Yeah.
Right. That's not your role.
not our role at all. Yeah. And then there's the coaches, which is our small business development center. They can coach you in the business. That's what their role is. And then there's the players, which are all the individual businesses. And then the audience that's watching the game is your customers.
Yeah.
So we kind of describe that to people. So
So-
what is a chamber? It's a booster club.
Yeah. That's a great analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. So as if you don't mind, go into a little bit as a local business. What would I get being a member of the chamber? Like, can you go into any type of specifics as far as what exactly that means or does for me?
The biggest thing is you get to join a community of business owners and get to build relationships. And that's hard to quantify, hard to monetize. So we also have some like marketing perks. We do a radio show with David Bell, Voice of the Valley, every Friday. And so every member gets to sign up for that. It's a 30-minute show where they just talk about their business, what they do. And that's, in order to go on a show as a private business, you usually have to be at least $300 a month advertiser with them. So our memberships for home-based businesses are $240. Our brick and mortars are $360. So already that one perk is covering pretty much that cost. And then there's a whole list, and I'm trying to see it in my brain. Miss Kay's been selling the heck out of these memberships. She was able to rattle them off.
Awesome. Yeah.
But the radio one is pretty big. We send out emails twice a week. One is like an events email. So we have the Gila Valley calendar on our website that we're trying to put everything on it, like all the graduations, all the everything, because it's hard to find out when things are a lot of the time, because you're like searching Facebook for stuff. So we're trying to do really well at that. And so your business gets to put your sales on there, your events, anything on there, and then we email it out to all our subscribers. And then we also have kind of a blog news updates section where you can say, like if you were going to do it for Man Mortgage, you could say, hey, we have this new product. It's for first-time home buyers. If you, if you're getting a new home for the first time in 3 years, you're considered a first-time home buyer, and you don't have to have a down payment if X, Y, and Z are true. I just went through this like year and a half ago.
Yeah.
So you could say, hey, we have this, and there's always a cool name for it. I don't know.
So like any type of promotion that we
any type of
we
promotion
put on that. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So for anyone that needs to promote anything, we'll put it on the calendar, or depending on if it's like a date range thing, then it's on the calendar. If it's always thing, it's on like updates.
Do you know like how big is your like if somebody were to promote something, how many eyes is that gonna be in front of?
We started our MailChimp. We used to mail out to everyone in our mailing list, and then we just started being told we were spammy. So we're doing it through MailChimp, which you have to opt into now. So it's more, because they said one email at a time through MailChimp.
Yeah.
And we're at 450, I think.
Cool.
But the cool thing about it is the people you're reaching are business owners, business chamber members, people that have signed up or participated in some way in the community. It's a little, they live here, that they opted in. So it's a little more high quality than just shooting out. Right?
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head as far as probably the biggest benefit is the relationships you can build, but something like that type of benefit, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it.
It's like a gym membership at that point.
Exactly. Right? Like because there's different events and stuff that you can go to and rub shoulders. I'm the VIP sponsorship dinner that you just did last Thursday. Right. That was a really good event because there's a lot of big players in that room. There are a lot of really cool people.
Almost
that
all countywide elected officials were there. The hospital, Man Mortgage was there. I don't know if you saw them.
Yeah, I think they were there. Davis wasn't there. Davis was out fishing in Florida.
Fishing.
So fun.
Yeah. Anyways,
the governor of the state of Arizona was there. That's pretty cool.
That was really cool.
Most people got to meet her. Did you meet her? Did I introduce you?
Okay.
You did. That was a whirlwind day.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was busy.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Did it take you back a little bit to Capitol Hill?
A little bit.
Yeah.
If anyone's ever seen Veep, the show, it's on HBO. It's exactly like my job. Is the guy with the bag in the background that whispers. It's like, this person has a T-baller. You can talk to them about that. Like they help these people be people because they're like they're kind of like. I said every member of Congress, and if Mike ever sees this, he's an exception.
Who is?
My old boss.
Oh, yeah.
Has some kind of mental disorder. Not that anything's wrong with mental disorders, but an untaken care of, unnoticed mental disorder.
and a non-diagnosed one yet, yeah.
And the most ambitious people, and their people skills are, you would think they'd be the best at this because they get elected. You're like having to humanize them all the time and be like, you should be nice to this person because they're a nun. Like work for the Catholic Church. Don't cuss in front of them. Like, don't cuss in front of a nun. Don't cuss in front of a nun. Like, it's so bizarre. Like you just have to. Social cues aren't there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're almost like kind of robotic. Yeah, I mean, even the speech that she was given, she realized halfway through that it was the wrong one, right?
Well, it was funny because I was next to her staff, and her staff was like, I think it's the right speech. I think she just, there's similar,
Right.
like they'll copy paste paragraphs.
Right.
She'll hit like 3 towns and say the same thing.
You almost have to be that way. Yeah.
But it was the right speech because at the beginning she was talking about the Graham County Chamber of Commerce, the Firth Park.
And then it pays.
So, but I think she like got slowed down and was like, oh shoot.
And to her credit, she realized it, and she was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is not right." And then they
Yeah.
gave her the right one, which wasn't a big deal at all. But yeah, I can see that how they're
It's just their time.
They
They're
go
just so
through,
busy.
they're almost kind of going through the motions, but that's kind of how it has to be too, because they're so busy. But do you have any? I'm gonna kind of go back a little bit. Do you have any do you have like a favorite story that you tell on from Capitol Hill? If not, that's all right.
There's so many.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I think just being around the members of Congress was so interesting, and to realize that their personalities, realize sometimes that I knew this member of Congress better than my boss did, because I'd had to arrange the meeting and be like, oh, I'm actually the one bridging the gap here.
Yeah,
making
that's
things
cool.
happen. Was kind of cool.
Who was the biggest
Go ahead. What years were you there? Because that's gonna tell probably a big story.
I got there in 2016 and I left in 2018.
Oh, okay.
So when I landed, Hillary Clinton was speaking at the Democratic convention, and she was supposed to win, as we all know, and there was going to be all these Democratic jobs on Capitol Hill, and there was going to be so much to do, and then she lost, and everyone had people had quit their jobs. People were ready to move into the White House.
That's crazy.
And the whole town is very much a blue town, very much so, and so people crying on the subway, the whole town in mourning, just she was supposed to win,
and and
she didn't.
It
was crazy.
That's an interesting perspective, because you see the videos of people, but it affects their lives a lot more than you think, because like you said, some of them might have quit their job expecting that, so it's not like they're just,
but
it's not like they're, it's not always just crying because Hillary lost. It's more of there's more of a personal impact there, because they might have quit their job expecting something else. So that's
well, and Trump has a lot of bluster too. He'll be like, I'm going to get rid of the EPA, and if that's your career, you're like, oh shoot, maybe he is going to get rid of the EPA, and then I don't have a job, which I'm sure in the Hill Valley a lot of people are like, yeah, let's get rid of the EPA.
Right. Who would you say is the most famous, I guess, or biggest name that you met personally on Capitol Hill? And what's going to be really embarrassing if you say the name and I don't know.
I met everyone. I met Barack Obama. I met Biden. I met.
Those are presidents.
Yeah.
Yes, those were presidents.
No, that's cool.
Nancy Pelosi, and then on the other side, met McCarthy when he was Speaker. The Speaker before Speaker Johnson was my boss's best friend. My boss is Democrat, but he's a blue dog Democrat, which means he's right at the edge of the Democrats, almost a Republican. There's only 15 of those left. It used to be a 60-member caucus, the blue dog Democrats, really strong caucus that could stop bills, because they were the business-owning Democrats, the Chamber of Commerce Democrats, the more conservative. Now everyone's out their edge, right?
Yeah.
There's only 15 left still. It's a really small group. But so one of his best friends ended up being Speaker of the House, and they would text, work out together, run together. My boss was really good at cleaning antique guns or restoring antique guns. So they would bring their guns to Capitol Hill, which was a lot of fun. And he would clean them. And he owned over 2,000 guns easy.
Wow. And
in his spare time, he was on eBay looking for more, or antique duck decoys, and big time hunter from Northern California, which you think super liberal, but he's a guy who owns a ton of vineyards and land owning and business running, and that's going to make you more conservative on taxes. That's going to make you more conservative on investments and securities and all kinds of stuff. So but then if someone wants to get married to someone, he doesn't care. So that's what makes him liberal.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. Barack Obama.
Do you have Brock's number?
No. Nope.
Do you stay in, like, when's the last time you talked to your old boss? Do you guys
I went to his fundraiser. He has a Christmas fundraiser every year, and I went right before COVID, and we chatted.
Yeah.
I have his number. I just don't ever. They're so busy that, like,
Right.
what would you text them about, or what would you even talk about? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like,
How's it going?
how's it going? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
My coworkers I talk to all the time. I'm still in a group chat with them, and I'll be like, "So what's the real story behind this?" So that's kind of fun to get some insider information still.
Yeah. That's awesome. Also kind of sad that we always have to worry about what the real story is. Because, that's
Well, there's always like the show.
yeah.
The stage, and then there's like Speaker Johnson really wants the deal to go through because it's good for America.
Mhm.
And he showed his colors last week, 2 weeks ago, when they did the Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel support bill to help fund those conflicts, help out. There's a big section of Republicans that don't want to fund Ukraine anymore, and so he had to get Democrats and get help to pass that. And in the Rules Committee, this is going to be nerd out really quick, you always vote party line. For like, I don't even know, the last 40 years, it's always been party line. It's the first time in probably half a century where Democrats and Republicans voted together to make something happen, because it had to happen in order to support Ukraine, which politics aside, I'm really passionate about just because of my mission. But
I wish that there was more of that. That it
Right.
wasn't so party specific.
just because of the name.
Yeah, let's just.
And they'll tell you I would support that, but I can't, because I'll go home and they'll say you voted with a Democrat or you voted with a Republican if you're in San Francisco, and it's super unfortunate because
Yeah.
people can't really think outside of the box or be nuanced about it. It's just like red, blue.
Yeah, that's why I don't get into politics. I don't like it.
It's not that way though. There,
Really.
it's not red team, blue team. That's all for TV. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene
Why
has
is
friends that are Democrats, and they go to dinner and they get dessert, and I promise you they're making each other cookies, because that's the only way to get anything done.
That's what I don't understand is why is it for
But they don't
TV?
put that on TV. They don't put
But
the
I feel like most
relationships.
people want that. So
Yeah.
why do they have to why does the stage have to be that way?
Yeah.
And I feel like most people don't want that.
It's a good question.
We
Like, I don't
would be
get it.
more unified as a country if they saw that side of
Yeah.
the politicians, but
Yeah.
instead,
Are you gonna donate $5 because you saw someone bring cookies to them, or are you gonna donate $5 because Marjorie Taylor Greene is destroying democracy?
Right.
You know what I mean? And they go off of the negative emotion,
yeah.
which I think long run, joy and happiness and and friendship always wins out. But I think because they're elected every 2 years, because they have to raise $250,000
Yeah.
every 2 years, it's just the way it is,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Which is too bad.
Yeah.
Anyways.
You want to hear an interesting fact?
Yes.
Vance has 4 brothers, 2 sisters, right?
Mhm.
I have 4 brothers, 2 sisters, and there are like 10 families in Thatcher that are the same way. I think there's.
And our ages match up a lot of
Yeah, a lot of the
times,
ages match up.
It's interesting.
Anyway,
Molinos.
I was just thinking about that. The
Colin
Nicholases,
Loretta, Nicholas's.
Molinos, Stevens, the Binghams in Pima. There's a bunch of them.
4 and 2.
5 and 2.
5 and 2.
5 boys,
Oh.
2 girls. 5 boys, 2 girls. Yep.
There was somebody else that I just thought about recently. I was like, I need to add them to the list. I need to keep a running list in my phone. It's a weird thing that I think about. Vance happens to be.
I'm gonna have a stat sheet right
Yeah.
somewhere, all the families that fall into that.
I thought of a favorite story
Okay.
from that time. Just going back.
Oh, from DC.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was driving members to a vote. When I say members of Congress to a vote at like 1 a.m. and there was 6 people in the car, and one of them was like, "Mike, you need to let your staff go out and party and like go to the bars. Like this is late at night for him to be working." And he's like, he doesn't drink. He's Mormon, and he can drive anytime because he's never drunk. And the car just went silent. And this other member, a Bay Area member, she's like, how do I get a morning staff?
Is that like this epiphany of who
Yeah.
they should be hiring? That's funny.
They're like, how do I get one of those? And I was like, I can hook you up. And now, to this day, there's always been BYU grads in Mike's office. Like, he'll have like 3 or 4 BYU grads because we farmed our intern pool from BYU, and like he's always had a ton of LDS kids in his office, which is funny.
Yeah. I've been to DC a couple times. What are some of your favorite spots in DC?
I like the Lincoln Memorial, but I like the back of it, which is really cool. It's just like random marble, white marble, but I like looking at the river. One of my favorite spots. But then looking straight from the Lincoln Memorial, you can see the Washington Memorial and then the Capitol behind it, so that they call that lineup, and that's cool. I like the Lincoln House, which is a museum in northern DC. Lincoln's not even my favorite president, but those are my favorite spots, I guess, there.
I think everybody, given the opportunity, should go to DC. It is so, spend 4 days at least there and hit the highlights. It is so educational, and it's like, even if you're not a history guy, it's a cool place to be.
And there's great food, and
great food. Yeah,
like you can catch your favorite pro sports team while you're there. There's all the culture and sports and everything else is there while you're there too. So it's a good vacation spot.
When did you go? How long ago?
I went in 2012. No, 2011. And then I went again in like 2014. So the first time I went, I was in student body presidency at EAC. And then I went again. My mom teaches social studies for junior high, and she takes a group every other year. And the first year that she went, I went with them. Totally different experiences, because you go with 2 or 3 people in the student body presidency, and you try to get in as much as you can. But then you go with a tour group and you get the actual tour from a tour guide. That was really cool because they knew all the little things that you wouldn't figure out by yourself.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun and highly recommend. And
it's a cool place.
I went once, and again, I have a terrible memory. Couldn't even tell you. I mean, and I was younger too, but I think I was out of high school. Anyways, we went to a Nationals game. We went to a Nationals game and a Philadelphia Phillies game, and both of them were Diamondbacks games too. They happened to be on a road trip. So, and actually at one of those games, because it was me and my dad and I think my brother and my sister. I think there's only 4 of us. I can't remember, but the Arizona Republic took a picture of us, and we were in the Arizona Republic.
Oh, no way!
As Diamondbacks fans at the Philadelphia game.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Represent.
But as far as like where, I couldn't even tell you where I went. That's how bad my memory is, and I'm realizing more and more that my wife is right. I have a really bad memory because I don't remember a lot of things. But.
Some periods of my life, like years, I'll be like,
yeah.
Some of them be right. Some of the provo times.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of that seasonal depression where it's like the sun doesn't come up until 1 p.m. and it's freaking cold up there.
Yeah.
And miserable, and I will never live in Provo again. But I don't remember years of my life up there.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Same. Yeah.
It's weird.
Insane.
So going back to where you're at now with the chamber, I mean, how long have you been there now?
5 years now, which it sounds crazy because 5 years used to be a long time, but it felt like it went by really fast.
Is that what's the average tenure of someone in your position? Like how long was?
There's a Wickenburg chamber director that was like legendary for having been there her whole career, like 30 years. Most chamber directors, it's like between 2 and 5. It's like for us, it was like 1 or 2 for like a decade, where it was like 2 years new person, 2 years new person, and it was just kind of the board not finding what they were looking for. The city's a big funder for the chamber, so there's some politics that go on with like who's in city council and who wants to fund the programs at the chamber. so it does kind of depend on when my dad was telling me about like what this job was kind of like. He's like, you don't want that job. You have to like be politically savvy on it, and I'm like, perfect, cool.
Yeah. Well,
sounds fun.
and because, so I'm on I'm on the board, the chamber
as
board
board members
because of Vance and because of Reed Richins, who was the president at the time when he approached me and asked me if I'd be interested in. And from my experience, we're extremely lucky to have someone to have Vance as an executive director, because you do an awesome job.
Well,
so I know that, I don't know what your plans are. Hopefully you plan on sticking around for a long time, but I know that we're super lucky. This valley is super lucky to have you in the position that you're in and all that you do, and also your staff over there too is fantastic.
Awesome. They're so cool.
Yeah.
That's super nice. Thanks. Appreciate it. I don't have any plans to go anywhere, but I think that we kind of had a mess at the beginning, and Micah Windsor helped financially fix that, and I helped policy-wise fix some stuff. So we're in like a kind of a very much more stable.
Mm-hmm.
We were paycheck to paycheck from 2019 to 2021, and COVID obviously helped us be worse than it needed to be.
Yeah.
Because we weren't forcing people to join the chamber when they didn't have their business running.
Right.
Like it was just like,
yeah,
we're not even gonna ask.
COVID wasn't good for business, which isn't good for the chamber. Yeah.
Right. And then back then our funding from the city was based on bed tax, which is a tax they tax hotels for every night someone sleeps in a hotel, they pay maybe $5 in Safford.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a percentage, so it depends on what the room's charged at. But that's how we were, because we were the tourism entity, and obviously no one was visiting. A huge part of people visiting Graham County, which is a fun tidbit if anyone ever asks you, are families visiting their incarcerated family in one of the 3 prisons. So we have two state prisons and a federal prison. These people have families that may not live here. And we learned that from hotel owners who said, yeah, the federal prison won't allow visitors, and you know how long federal entities took to open up after COVID.
Yeah.
So they couldn't visit their family for over a year. Like couldn't see them.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Never considered that the prisons
the economic
actually
impact
bring
of that.
bring in tourism, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, there are people who are visiting here that don't live here that eat at our restaurants, stay at our hotels. Yeah, it's tourism. Interesting.
Yeah. One thing I learned, I can't remember who told me, but it was somebody that owned an Airbnb, said that we get a lot of bird watchers here too, which I had no idea.
That and rock hunters.
And rock hounds, yeah.
Yeah, I think Michael Romney was telling me
Yeah,
that.
maybe it was Michael.
He has an Airbnb. He's like, yeah, a lot. Because you assume that most of it is people coming from Freeport to do contract work with Freeport.
Yeah.
But he's like, honestly, I get a lot of rock hunters. So,
yeah. There's so many things that intersect here, like archaeology-wise and geology and birds. We have so many varieties of birds that the other parts of the country don't have. Like you go to somewhere like Indiana, and I don't know why they're always my state that I make fun of, but you go somewhere like Indiana and get like 3 birds in a county, like 3 species of birds.
Yeah.
We have like, I don't even know, roadrunners and every kind of bird migrating through. Yeah. We had a parrot from Central America come up last summer, and it was the first time it had been seen in the United States ever.
A parrot?
A parrot.
In the Gila Valley?
It was in.
It
was at Clough Ponds, a bird here, and so they put up the like, hey, there's this famous bird that you're only ever gonna see if you're in like down in Costa Rica or somewhere. And so people flew in from all over the place to see it.
That's crazy.
Guy from literally from London.
Yeah.
Came to see it.
If you're gonna fly somewhere to go see it, why not fly to where they're actually?
He was already in like northern New Mexico doing birding stuff.
Gotcha.
And he was like, "Get down here."
All right, but what are the chances? Did someone's pet just get out of the cage? Like, did that thing really come from? It
was a crazy day because someone tried to come down Ash Creek Trail, which right now don't come down Ash Creek Trail. It's burned out. It's not passable. So our group was trying to come through Ash Creek Trail at the same time. took them like 20 hours to get where they were. They finally called search and rescue. So search and rescue has a helicopter in and are searching alongside these birders who are from back east, didn't bring any water. It's over 100 degrees. They don't have any water bottles. It was an interesting day. But Kay, who I work with, who did a podcast, so go check out Kay's podcast with these guys, was just so worried that the helicopter would take off with people and that the bird would, because they're looking for the bird, and then the bird would come and be like, she's like, please don't kill the bird.
That is crazy. You know, that is, we are blessed with the wildlife that we have around here.
We have a diversity of everything.
Yeah. I mean, you hear
people, food.
You hear about the jaguar that there's jaguars that come over from Mexico, and that's a big deal. And
stars, dark skies out here.
I love our valley. I do.
We talk about that a lot.
Yeah, and I'll continue to talk about it. That's right.
No, not a bad thing to talk about.
Yeah,
we're proud of it.
We're proud of it.
That's good.
Part of the reason we do this podcast.
Well, I think all three of us could live in the valley in Mesa and do something else. You could do mortgages, probably earn a little more money.
Yeah,
in Phoenix,
very possibly.
I mean, the houses cost more, so the mortgages are.
I have no desire to live
higher.
in Phoenix. I lived in Tempe while I was going to school, and I don't like it. I don't like huge crowds. I don't like feeling I don't like being stuck in traffic, and I don't like how, because it gets hot here, but obviously it cools down in Phoenix. Like, we had a pool at our house. We go outside at 2 a.m. and we'd still be sweating.
I hate that.
Like,
the heat trapped in
it
there.
just doesn't go away. You can't escape the heat.
Or Texas or back east, like, and I know you've done like summer sales different places, or you used to? No,
Never.
You did it.
Yeah.
You did.
I did.
In Texas.
I went to Austin for a little bit.
Where have you lived back east? Never?
Never. Yeah.
Oh, I guess I didn't think.
Not me.
Someone you.
I just went to
Someone
Florida.
in Moon Apartments in Provo did.
Oh.
That's for sure.
Did you guys were you guys at Provo at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Tyler Klontz,
Yeah.
Dallin Christensen,
Chris Udall.
Monique Molina, Lang, whole bunch of Thatcher kids.
Yeah.
I never had the desire to go to BYU.
Yeah.
Just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
It was cheap. That was the thing for me. It was for a 4-year degree. It was as cheap as you could get, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And I hated it sometimes, but I hated the weather. Didn't love, like, coming out there was not the best place in the world. Like, ASU would have probably been a lot easier. But loved most of it. Like, my first class I had was with Elder Gong, and he's one of the coolest guys ever on like organizational leadership and empathy, and one of the coolest things he taught us, and it's always stuck with me because The Dark Knight came out. We already talked about this in 2008. We watched The Dark Knight for class, and we talked about ethics and like how to make decisions as a leader. And he said, my fear is that BYU students are so Boy Scouty and so to the rules that, like, if they were living in Germany during World War II and a Nazi soldier came in and they had Jews in their attic, and the Nazi soldier said, are there Jews at your attic? They would worry about lying.
Yeah.
And they would say, yeah, there are Jews in your attic, I can't lie.
I can't lie, yeah.
And he said, in that situation, if you're looking at like philosophy and truth, what is truth? There are no Jews in the attic. Because the true thing is, the real truth is those people should live.
Yeah.
And there are no Jews in the attic, is the real truth. And it was like a cool, like, I don't know, he was really cool and made us think deeper about things.
In kind of an extreme example of that, but definitely makes sense for Mormon culture. You know, like, I like to hope that wouldn't actually be a question, you know, and, you know.
Well, it's also a BYU culture.
Yeah.
Or I'll say it, Thatcher culture sometimes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're a little harsh on things that really, if you think about it from a human standpoint, it makes sense just to have common sense and be a human and be a friend.
Absolutely.
And be kind.
Because the question of, is it better to tell this lie or to let these people get killed? Hopefully that's not an actual
Hopefully
moral
it's not a
issue
problem.
for anyone.
Yeah, hopefully it's not a problem.
But yeah, that is a good analogy there.
That's great.
Oh, cool.
I have no idea what time it is. I'm like, we just went
Yeah,
for it.
It is 4:30, so I think we've been doing one about an hour maybe. So it's always good when you lose track of time.
Yeah.
You know,
Just
the
need
conversation was good, and but well, cool. Is there anything that you want to plug as far as chamber wise or anything like that?
I would say to anyone watching that's a business owner or has kind of some control over their schedule, where you're not an employee that's hourly, like join a board. I throw that challenge out there there's so many nonprofits that need help with bookkeeping if that's your expertise, or insurance if that's your expertise, or event planning or fundraising, with so many good nonprofits that help with families going through cancer, or families that can't pay for their utilities 1 month, but they're good the rest of the year, it's just this 1 month. Or the Chamber of Commerce, we have 2 boards. We have a leadership board and chamber board. We're always looking for more input, more involvement, more volunteers. There was a member of the community that asked me how to help the other day, and I introduced her to Danny Smith, and he's on like AYSO,
All kinds of stuff.
Watershed, that's protecting how much water is in the community. He's on Downtown Association, he does economic development, he works for the hospital. And he said the best ones are like youth sports. Like start with youth sports, be a coach. Beyond the group that comes up with a schedule and the leagues, and they're in need of people to help out and make those activities work for kids in this community. We have thousands, I think, at this point of kids in just soccer alone. But it's what makes our community so awesome, is that not only do the parents have time to go and coach, but like we said earlier, your boss is going to let you go.
Yeah.
Most bosses here are going to let you go.
Yeah. I will say, I think that there's the recreation, for the youth, I think is good in our community. There's a lot for it, but I also think that there's a lot of room for improvement with different things, different leagues that could be done. I think for the youth, there's a lot going on for the youth, but honestly, there's not a whole lot of adult recreation that it's out there.
It'd be nice if we had some leagues. I know there's a women's volleyball league in Thatcher for adults. There's some softball maybe out there. Is there still softball as strong as it used to be?
It's at the fairgrounds. The county does that softball, but and like I said, it's out there. But I just think it could be there's room for improvement.
Right.
Yeah.
People need to get in and market it.
Yeah, I think it's going to take more volunteer work to make that happen. That just doesn't
And that's one other last thing I'll say is, if you want to start any kind of business here, if you have good customer service, it's going to go well.
Yeah.
If it's a restaurant, a hotel, look how many Edward Joneses we have. Look alone. Bruce is going to love that I plugged Edward Jones. My brother is a financial planner, and I just plugged not him. So, anything you want to start here is going to succeed. We're growing like crazy. The mine has openings all the time in Safford and Thatcher. The Safford government, Graham County government, all of them are hiring like 10 or more positions right now. There's people here to buy your product. If you have a good idea, I know Weston was on here too. Watch his podcast. If you look at Shelby Cake or at Hawaiian Snow, they have lines at those places.
Every time I drive by Shelby Cake, there's people that parked outside.
Part of that's because they have a good product and a really good experience. And they're a prime example of businesses that are going to do well. If you have good customer service, you get on DoorDash, you use all the tools available to you, you're going to do well.
Yeah.
There's a vacuum of like, I don't know, like any kind of business is going to do well if you can figure it out.
Can I ask you your opinion on something though?
Sure.
Because do you think that there is a struggle for workers, for employees, having to compete with the mine wages, because obviously
Yeah.
the mine, you know, great jobs at the mine, great wages. I feel like sometimes businesses struggle competing with the mine.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say
That's hard.
to that?
And I also think the minimum wage going up to 15 in January is a problem.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to hire a full-time person for our front desk at the chamber. And this is where like, yeah, I'm a Democrat, but also not.
Right, you don't, yeah.
Because minimum wage has never made sense to me because you just pass it on to your customer. I was up in Utah for a funeral like 3 months ago. There's like 3 people waiting on our table. They're getting paid $7.50 an hour because they have federal minimum wage in Utah. The place was clean, the prices were low. I mean, we're in January going to get $15 an hour to pay someone to sit at a desk and answer a phone if it rings, or talk to a person if they walk in. $15, and the payroll tax, and their benefits. It's a lot. And I think, like, so really high wages over at the mine, you're getting higher skilled people, or people willing to put in the time to, you know, learn, whether it's driving or being a mechanic or whatever their job is. They have to learn and go through the safety trainings, which are not just basic safety trainings. They're like day-long,
Right.
like intensive trainings with tests. So that's not everyone that can do that. But I know our waiters and waitresses make more than public school teachers in this town, if they know how to get tips.
Right.
Yeah, it is hard. It is hard finding people. So we need more people to move here.
That's
buy
what we
houses,
need.
right?
Yeah, that's right.
So is the $15 an hour minimum wage, is that going up across the board, including waiters and waitresses? Like
Well, no, they have that lower
Okay, I
one.
was gonna say.
They just have to get paid that much an hour, including their tips.
Gotcha.
But for any of those other like service jobs where
Yeah, you're right. It's just gonna that cost is just gonna be pushed onto the consumer.
And I get the livable wage argument. I get when people are like, but the last 2 people that have made the argument to me were like 22 and 23, and they lived in Scottsdale, and they were like, my apartment's $2,500 a month. And I'm like, yeah, and you live alone, and you have a 2-bedroom apartment.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're not gonna have a livable wage at 23. You have to be like the rest of us.
Yeah.
You have to get a roommate.
Mm-hmm. Oh, when I moved to ASU, we rented a house, and there was like 6 of us that lived there, and we made it work. And I honestly couldn't. I liked some of my roommates, and I didn't like some of my roommates, and it's just something that you dealt with. But it was a way to make it livable. And
in DC, I had 8 roommates, 2 bathrooms, rats, like holes in the floor.
Oh man, in DC.
Mm-hmm. But it was like, it's character building.
Yeah,
and I really sound like a
well, and some of my
It also drives. It's a driving force to make you work for something.
Yeah, that you want to.
Right.
Yeah,
And now you're a homeowner.
that's true. And I'm a homeowner. That's true.
Congratulations on that too. Which has been a little over a year now, right?
Yeah, January 2023. So yeah.
Awesome. That's another thing that's coming up is the next leadership class, right?
Yes.
That's something that you can talk about.
We would love to have people apply for that. The leadership program goes from August through June now. It's once a month, but it's a full day. It's 8 to 5. We pack in a bunch of tours of businesses, government, utilities, public lands, healthcare, the college, education. For 2 days we go to Phoenix, and it's 3 days, 2 nights, and talk to legislators and members, agency heads, sometimes the governor, sometimes. And now that she's been here, maybe she'll meet with us.
It's a cool program. I did it. I did it. I did that before.
That's how. Well, that's not how we met. I've known you a long time.
But that's how we got reconnected.
But that's how we got reconnected
100%,
professionally.
100%. Yeah. I've known you for a long time, but we both went our own ways. And then I knew you were back in the chamber, and then that's how we started Rubbing Shoulders more again. Again, that class is a great relationship builder. Yeah. You know, that's what led to me becoming a member of the chamber. I mean, a member of the board of directors. Like I did that class first, and so it is a really cool class.
Danny Smith, who helped start that program, always says that it shrinks the Gila Valley down to 20 people. Mm-hmm. So if you need someone at the hospital, you have a contact. If you need someone at the city of Safford, Graham County, you have friends in some of the bigger organizations, plus your business, whoever your business is that comes out, and it's a really good thing.
And you have to apply to be accepted for that class. So I'm just curious, do you know like what's the most applications that you guys usually receive? Like, is it?
We get, we try to take 20 people. We'll get between 25 and 30, and it's usually natural attrition.
Yeah.
That gets us down to 20. Like, we get people that like, it's a huge time commitment, and so people will be like, not this year, another year, or
guilty.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna name names. That happens like to 5+ people.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just a Davis situation. It's a lot of people.
You don't need to make them feel better.
It's a huge time commitment, and we ask people to be there every time too.
Yeah.
So we want people to take it seriously and go and go through the whole program, because it builds on itself, and it's a fun program. So it's probably my favorite part of what we do at the Chamber is the leadership program. I really like it.
So that's starting back up in June.
We'll have applications out, I think, in May. I think we'll have them this month.
That's crazy that we're already in May.
Yeah.
That is crazy. But, well, cool. Well, thanks again for
Thanks
coming
for having
and
me.
talking to us.
It's
And
great.
it's a lot of fun.
Glad you came in.
Thanks for having me.
So,
Super fun.
Right.
Thanks for doing this.
yeah,
We're excited about this, yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. Honestly, everyone we've had already has been super interesting.
Literally, if nobody watched this, I would still want to do it.
Yeah, and that might happen. That's very possible, but it still, it gives us a chance to get to know you better. We just today we talked to Michael Romney, and I started off the podcast with saying how well I knew Michael Romney, and then literally I was like, oh, the whole time I didn't know that. You know, he was telling me all kinds of stuff that I didn't know, and so it's been a really good opportunity getting to know people, and it's been a lot of fun.
You gotta get Danny Smith, because he's my mentor in like community organizations, and literally I've probably had a meeting with him with another person there every week for my whole job. Every time we meet, I learn something new about him.
Yeah.
He does some kind of ranch on the south side of the mountain. He sells stickers and t-shirts and hats, and he does this over here and that over there. And I'll call him and he'll be like, I'm at a conference in this state and I'm doing this. Why simultaneously like being in meetings in Gila Valley through Zoom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how does this man?
He would be great.
dude,
He'd be
he's
great
awesome.
to have on here. Yeah. We'll see. I think might take a little bit of convincing. I don't know if he'd be willing to do it or not.
Oh, he'll do it.
That would be fun. So
Put in a good word for us.
Yeah,
Tell 'em
I
how much
will.
fun it is.
Yeah.
I will.
all right, cool.
Cool. Thanks,
Thanks,
man.
Thanks.
Like Gucci.